Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Dad Talk. Today, I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to try to get through this really quickly because I am very eager to get into this conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're watching this, and make sure to get it out there. And if there's any ladies watching today, make sure we get more in here because I like I said, I'm so excited about this conversation. So many different ways that you can support this show: Cash App, Venmo, Patreon, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. There's super chats and memberships over on YouTube, and we got the same on Facebook. Now that I got that out of the way, ladies, how are you doing this morning?
Good. Doing good this morning.
Yeah. So we got Miss Maria back with us. She's been on Dad Talk numerous times. It was her husband that got killed at a custody exchange. Very unfortunate situation, almost similar to that of John Mass, and I want to dip back into that. But we have Miss Kira Weger. Did I say it right?
Yes, Kira Weger.
Kira, tell us, what brought you to this conversation? What made you want to speak up for father's rights?
Well, Maria invited me, but I have been doing TikTok for about 3 years now, advocating for father's rights as a stepmom myself. So I'm on there every day talking about it for my husband because he doesn't speak up for himself like he should. And there's a bunch of dads who don't. So I use my voice to do that.
Why do you think that he doesn't speak up?
Honestly, I think he's afraid of the repercussions from the mother of his children. Anytime that he speaks up for himself, it bites him in the butt. So
what's been some of your challenges as a stepmom with your husband going through this? I'm sure communication probably wasn't so good with the ex. Or you having to communicate, or is she throwing shade your way? What's that dynamic like?
Honestly, I've been here since 2016 in his life, in his daughter's life. I met her when she was 4 and she's now 10. I've never had a relationship with the mother of his children. She never wanted to meet me. But, I've still been here. And it's just been a challenge for all of us ever since the beginning. There's been allegations, there's been lies. There is no communication between the two of us. My husband does all of that. But there's she don't like me. I don't know why, just because I'm here.
Well, because you're with the person that she's got to make look like the devil, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it goes against the narrative. Oh, he can exist with somebody else, but I've got to tell my story. Oh, they were no good. They did this, but he can exist peacefully with somebody else. It hurts that narrative. What are some of those allegations? I don't know how much you want to dip into it, but what are some of those challenges that you've seen him going through in this system? And do you feel like men are listened to?
Honestly, I don't think men are listened to at all. I think the system is screwed when it comes to dads. Even myself growing up, I saw my dad go through it. And that's another reason why I do this. As far as the allegations go, just here recently, there were allegations thrown her way and she decided to bring me into it, even though I had nothing to do with it. So it brought the CPS to our door. And it's at a point where my husband's he wants to give up, but I got to keep pushing him because he doesn't want to keep doing this. Thousands of dollars just to see his kids, and he's having to spend money to fight for his kids, and he shouldn't be having to do that.
Well, I think this goes for ladies too, but men, especially after they've been through this type of situation, they just want peace. Like, let's
Yeah,
all get along. Let's, I'll get the kids, me and you. We might not be able to communicate well. Just let me see my child. And then, we don't have to do this back and forth. Unfortunately, with this type of person, that doesn't seem to happen.
it doesn't. And as a mom myself, I get along so well with my father, my children's father, like so well. We don't have to deal with this because I'm not that kind of person. So I guess I don't understand these women's mindsets when they want to do this, because they're not just doing it to the father, they're also doing this to their children who are going to
Yep,
see what's happening as they get older. So,
absolutely. Miss Maria, I'm going to go over to you for a second. Reintroduce yourself to everybody that might not know who you are, and tell them a little bit about the battle that you was in the background watching what happened to Justin.
My name is Maria Morris. I was engaged to Justin Goolsby 2 months before, 2 days before our wedding day. He was murdered by his ex's dad. Before that, for years, we struggled with trying to co-parent. I watched him go in and out of the court system, spend thousands of dollars, trying to clear his name, trying to, win his child back on what should have been like his scheduled period of time. I watched him multiple times try, like not try, but want to give up. I watched a man go from being a man to being defeated at times, and it broke me. It was a very big struggle for our relationship. It was a struggle for even my two kids alone, who Justin was a stepfather figure to have to go through this. And all we wanted was to peacefully co-parent, just peacefully be a blended family, but we weren't allowed to do that. And what's really hard was, the allegations that we had to go through, all the false things that were said about him, myself, our whole family. It really took a toll on us. And what really upsets me is it takes it away from people that actually go through this. You take their voice away, because there are people actually that are being abused, that have to go through this. But there are people, believe it or not, that don't actually do this, that actually have to face false allegations just to simply see their kid.
So that's something that I heard from both of you, talking about false allegations that these guys are going through. Guys, if you haven't read up on the Justin Goolsby situation, that was a very eerie one for me, because we made the documentary about John Mast and we followed his story. And when Maria reached out to me, I felt like she was handing me the script for I Stand With John. I mean, it was almost identical. Ex-father-in-law that did it went through false allegations, killed in a parking lot, and it's just crazy. The more that I get, I've been doing this for 2 years now, following John's story. The more I dip down into it, I just keep learning more and more every day. But there is one thing that was evident. After he went through those false allegations, nobody believed him. It was like they was so quick. Even when he had evidence to show otherwise, they rushed to defend that other side. Maria, I mean, is that something that you saw with Justin? Did he get treated unfairly once he went through those allegations?
Oh yeah, he definitely was treated unfairly, and I still feel like even today, even though he's not here to speak up on his behalf, and even though on my side I've got countless documents, countless of videos, text messages, documents to prove, all these false allegations that she made were false. There are still people that are going to believe that. Like, once you say these damaging things, it's really hard to come back from that.
It is, absolutely. And they don't have to have proof. They just got to make people think it. And then they are guilty, guys. They're guilty from the second they walk in there. And they'll take little bits and pieces of whatever it is to shape that narrative. Unfortunately, social media is a good way to get out the message like we're doing now. And I thank you ladies so much for putting your voice over there on TikTok. But also the ones that want to create this narrative that goes against you, they use the same tools. Right. And people are so quick to rush and defend. Kara, what was that like with your husband, seeing him go through false allegations? Once he went through that, how did the dynamics change for him?
Sorry, there was a little bit of a technical issue there. Okay. What was the question?
I said, once your husband went through the false allegations, how did you see the dynamics change for him trying to navigate this system?
Well, the allegations started early on, probably the first year that I started to get involved with him. And the allegations weren't really against him to begin with. They started with me. And that was hard for him to see because he knows that I would never do things like that, and that I'm a good mom. But as time progressed, 7 years now, we're still dealing with that. These most recent allegations are against both of us, and it's the craziest stuff. It's just things that are absurd, and yeah, it makes him like Maria. I was watching your other podcast that you sent me. Allegations were even against my own children, my 8-year-old son, and it's just it blows my mind. This woman will do everything she can to make sure that dad feels uncomfortable and that people have this false narrative about him. And yes, people in this small town do believe the things that she says. So he does have a bad rep, I guess, here with the people who side with her. So
I'm so sorry, ladies. And I thank you for sticking by your man. And Maria, I know Justin's not here anymore, but it takes a strong woman to stand by somebody, especially Kira. You're getting brought into this and they're throwing it towards your way. Look, I can sympathize. When the public found out that I was dating who is now my wife, and we've been together for years, we haven't had any of the problems that I had in the past. That was the last time I saw my child. It's been about 4 years now, and I did everything I could through the system. You go to them and it's, hey, I need $10,000 on retainer. It's going to cost $400 per hour. If your ex is high conflict, we don't know what the hours are going to be. They can never give you that number because the more conflict that they get inside the family courts, the more money they make. And for many of these guys, and I can sympathize with your husband, they're probably sitting back saying, there's nothing I can do. I have hit a dead end. And the only thing that I get out of this is I don't get any relief. I don't get to see my kids. They're taking all the resources I got to live with. I can't do it anymore.
Right.
I can't do it anymore. It's not doing me any good. That's why I just cannot promote this system. This system is wrong. Unfortunately, it's working exactly as it was designed. If you get on here and you hear these stories, you realize how similar all of these guys' stories are. I mean, they just are. Let me ask you though, because I really want to dip into this, and do me a favor if you're there in the comments, because I want these ladies to see this. Make sure you tell them how much you appreciate them for coming here and speaking for fathers' rights today, because it takes strong women to do so. And don't think, I haven't even asked the question yet, but don't think that they're not getting attacked for doing so. So that's my next question. What are some of the things that you have went through when speaking up for fathers' rights? I pretty much already know the answer, but I want the audience to hear. Whoever wants to start, I'm going to sit back and drink coffee.
Honestly, when I speak about it, I do get a lot of hate, but I have gained my audience. Well, TikTok's the only place I talk about it. I have gained my audience. There's a lot of fathers and a lot of stepmoms on there and a lot of supporters. But there are a lot of women on there who disagree. And honestly, I think those are the women that are the problem, to be honest. I've learned to live with the hate because we're going to get it, regardless. But yeah, the hate is real. I literally posted a video yesterday that has gone viral, and I am lucky enough that the dads have come in last minute to help me because it was getting bad.
All right, tell me that TikTok handle. I know that some of you guys might not be over there on TikTok, but what's that TikTok handle so they can go in there and give some thoughts?
It's at That Texas Girl. So THATEXASGIRLL. There's 2 L's. So y'all go over there and watch all those lovely videos. There's a lot. And I'm sure y'all
You're a Texas girl.
Yes.
This is going down in Texas.
Yes.
Oh,
God. I know.
Oh my God. That is one of the worst states in this entire country. And I was very shocked to find that out. That the national average is around 80 to 82.5% of the time dad fights for custody, he ends up without custody of his kids. Exactly. These are guys that are fighting. In Texas, we're around 93 to 94%, almost 12, 13% higher than the national average. Texas is making a lot of money off of making sure that people like your husband is going through what they're going through. And you know what's so sad is a lot of this, if they would just step back and look at the evidence, they would see there's no basis for it whatsoever. But no, we got to bring that in court. You need to get your attorneys, you need to get your experts, because that's what they do. But before I get off on my little tangent, Maria, what about you? What's it been like for you speaking out about fathers' rights?
Well, it has definitely been very interesting. More so in my case, since I talk about my own storyline, I get a lot of people who just don't want to believe that our side is the truth. They always are like, whenever I speak on my story, they always try to do their research, which I applaud. I always support. Do your research on everything. There is two sides to every story. What goes against me and my story is if you go to Google or you Google our story, the first headline that's going to pop up is grandfather killed granddaughter's dad because of these false allegations. So a lot of people automatically assume that is what really did happen. And I'm over here trying to say, no, obviously it's a storyline. That's what everybody's going to be drawn to. It's the media. And, not everything that is put on the media is true. That is just a tidbit. Like, our story isn't even over. We haven't even, finished our trial. So not everybody's sides has been, really heard and stuff. But this is where I will always speak up openly about it. Is, yeah, he was killed for this, but these were all false. He was murdered over false allegations. And I hope that, my story helps prevent other fathers. In John and Justin's case, it didn't, though. And that's what's really scary. How many fathers out there are dying because of false allegations? It's sad. I never in a million years thought that this was going to be our story. This is how how he was going to die. This is what I was going to do. If you asked me in 5 years if I would be doing this, I probably been like, probably not, but now that it's become my life, I see things, even as a mom, I have my own kids and stuff. I would never do this to my kids' father. I can't imagine doing that. Yeah, we had our issues. Yeah, there's a lot of people that co-parenting is not easy. It didn't come with a manual. But if you love your kids more than you hate your ex, then you shouldn't have the struggle that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We got a question in here for you, ladies. Mike Whitney said, do you witness your girlfriends talking about keeping their ex from their children and bragging about using the system and making false allegations?
I haven't personally. I have girlfriends that we get into arguments about, not because of the fault of making false allegations, but a lot of my friends that have become single moms, one of the things that we fight about is whenever they're like, oh, if he doesn't pay me child support, then they can't see their kid. And I'm like, no. Especially coming from my situation, I am so passionate about telling them, no, that is not how it goes. Even if a guy, but he made a child with you, I don't feel like it's right that just because he left you for another woman, that is your right to keep his child from him, to make him dish out a lot of money just because of that mistake that he did. Because just because he did that does not mean he's a bad father. He could still be a wonderful father to his kid.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Kira?
I agree with everything you just said. Honestly, like, as a mom myself, you took it right out of my mouth. I could never treat him that way. If he wants to see his kids, he can see his kids anytime he wants to. If he's behind on child support, please come pick up your child. It's okay. I know we all have financial issues. And as far as the cheating goes, like, just because you and that woman are no longer together, like my last TikTok, that doesn't mean that you walked away from your children. You may have walked away from her, but that doesn't mean you walked away from your children, and you should still be able to be involved with your child, regardless of how you feel. And a lot of women see it this way. Well, he had a baby with me, so unless he respects me and he wants something to do with me, that's the only way he's going to see his children. And a lot of people have that mindset, and I don't understand it, because I could never have that mindset. I guess that's why I don't understand it.
Why do you think that these type of moms are doing this?
It's control. It's all about control.
Yeah.
Control and jealousy. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a two-pronged thing because you got the moms that are going to have that, and unfortunately, the system protects that because
Yeah.
that's the one that's going to create the conflict. The fact that we don't have some type of equality in there, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. But Maria, what's this been like for you after Justin, like even thinking about dating and moving forward?
Ooh.
Oh, it's actually just had a conversation with a friend yesterday about it. Um, it's hard. It's one of those things. It's like I compare every guy that I've met who I've even thought about, going on a date. I've flaked out on dates multiple times. I try not to talk about it. Honestly, it's one of those things. I've tried to. Around here, it's so hard because everybody knows me as that girl that almost got married and everything. Um, and right now, like sometimes I think, oh, I'm ready to date. I'm ready to put myself out there. And then sometimes I just get like a guilty feeling about it. And then there's some days it's like, dude, I'm scared. I'm scared to, and I know it's not fair to guys out there because I am a mom with kids, but I'm scared to date a guy that's been married. I'm scared to date a guy that has a kid. I'm scared of getting attached to their kid. I'm scared of going through down the same road that I had went through where I have to deal with a high conflict baby mama, and for my own peace of mind and for my kids, I'm scared to even put them through that.
Kira, being a stepmom, now you're going through these allegations, you're getting all this conflict because of what you stepped into. You might not have wanted to leave, but I'm sure there was times like, what am I doing? What are some of those thoughts that you've had? And obviously those would be natural for anybody that was facing this, but obviously you loved your husband because you stuck on in there.
Yeah, there have definitely been some times when I thought about walking away, which I did voice very loudly on TikTok. It's hard. It really is. It has damaged my mental health in a way a little bit. But I don't really want him to do it alone. And if I could go back and be like, hey, I'm about to start dating this man with a child, I would still do it. I know, I know it's hard, but if something were to happen between us, I feel like it would be hard to date a man with children again. Just I can't even try to explain it to you guys. It's just been very difficult, not just for me, not just for him, but my family and his family, our children, because everybody sees it. Right. Everybody's involved. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna hang on and keep giving him that voice because, like I said, it's hard for him to do it himself. I told him about this podcast this morning, and he was like, you let them know that a dad shouldn't have to spend thousands of dollars to see his children.
I'd love to talk to him if he can. We'll put him on here and give him a fake name so Absolutely. He can say whatever he wants. I'll keep him off the screen.
He can probably tell you his situation better than I can. So yeah, if you'd like to have him, he could absolutely come tell you all about it.
Let's do it, ladies. We need to get you guys doing this as much as you can. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of the things that when these women show up trying to shut you up over there on TikTok that you're hearing? One of my main things I'm going to get is moms too. We go through it, moms too. Or not my baby daddy. My baby left. He didn't want anything to do with his kid. I begged him to see his kid. And so one of the things that I've done to start pushing back at that narrative, I'm like, did he have to go through you to see the kid? Were you allowing him to see the kid? Was it an argument every time that he showed up? Did the courts give you the control? And you start giving some of those questions and they get really, really upset because then you start finding out what it was like. It's just so easy to say, I begged him and he didn't come. You might have been the problem, but what are some of the things that y'all are hearing trying to shut you up? Kira, I'm going to start with you. Or Maria, go ahead. Either one. You ladies got it.
Maria, go ahead. I have a lot to pull up in my brain.
Okay. Well, mine's a little bit different. Kira, she speaks on behalf of fathers as a whole. And I do that, but I also use my story as my topic. So mine is more of these women come in on the attack of, oh, you're in denial. You know, like people that loved ones that do all this stuff, that people are in denial that they do that. And it was one of those things, and I know that these people never lived a day in my shoes, didn't have to go through what I went through. And I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish this on any father. I don't wish this on any mother to go through the things that we had to go through. But whenever the allegations get so bad that you have to walk on eggshells in your own life, in your own home, around your own kids, where you have to put security cameras in your own home, where you have to make sure that you're asking your friends to come over whenever I remember Justin, if I was at home and he couldn't be, or he was at home with the kids and I had to be at work, he would always ask one of his friends, like, hey, you want to come over for a barbecue or anything? Simply because he was so scared to just be left alone with his kid. What kind of life is that? So mine is more of the attack. I'm in denial that, like, this probably did happen. Oh, you're just using this for your 5 seconds of fame and everything. Like, I'm not getting paid for this. Me talking about this doesn't bring Justin back. It doesn't bring John Mass back. It doesn't undo the thousands of dollars that have been spent. And honestly, and I even because we have a pending case, I have to, in a way, walk on eggshells because I've got to watch what I say. But It's one of the things. It's like, I'm very passionate about this subject because I've had to go through it, and I had to watch a very good father lose his life, because of all this. So the attacks are just people that are very closed-minded and who don't have that mindset, or their moms that are doing the same thing to their exes. So that I just tell myself, like, you're making other people's lives miserable because you don't want to be open to a healthy co-parenting environment. So it's not about them.
Don't understand how they think that way. Some of the comments that I've gotten, which are common, are, you're just the stepmom. You're probably listening to everything that he's telling you. They're probably lies. But little do they know, I have seen for myself and heard for myself what happens. I don't need him to tell me anything because I have seen it all. I've seen it all. A lot of the times they tell, we got this text this last pickup when we were supposed to pick up his daughter. You're just a weekend babysitter. Well, why is that? You don't give him any extra time. He's court ordered every other weekend. You don't give him any extra time. He can, even for Christmas, he wanted to speak to her for Christmas. She said, I will let you talk to her at my earliest convenience. Okay, well, whenever I spoke on that, she switched up real quick. But that is what she said. And it's not about her. It is about the child. So it's not just because I'm the stepmom and it's what he's been telling me. I see it. I see it all for myself, like I have for the past 7 years.
Maria talked about walking on eggshells, Kira, with going through those allegations and stuff. What is that time like when you do have the child? I'm sure it's got to be one of those, like, I got to watch what I'm doing here. It's got to be, honestly, it's got to be scary.
It is. And I do walk on eggshells when she is here. It wasn't always like this. Me and this child, we used to have a really strong bond, and then she has her mother chirping in her ear about things, and it is weird now, and I have to watch what I say and watch what I do and let dad handle it as much as possible so that Kira is not targeted. And even my husband sees that, and I have to tell him a lot of the time, I need you to handle this because I don't want to get accused of something else, because it's going to come to a point where it's going to get my biological children involved, and I don't want that. So,
and that's so scary because that makes the child think they've got the power. And I'm going to be honest with you, kids want what they want, and they know how to play the parents too. So they know that you're not getting along. They think, I can do whatever I want because they know better than to mess with me, or I'll get mom mad at her. That's man, that's not a life. I mean, people, you can do this together. And it's so sad that these families aren't doing this together. And guys, I know that's a pipe dream. When we're talking about this type of person, you probably ain't ever going to be able to do it. But Maria, what was that like for you? You talk about walking on those eggshells. How did that relationship change between you and the kids once these allegations came into play?
Well, it was really hard, especially because what was said outside of our home was not how it was inside our home. When it was all 5 of us, together as a family, we were like a normal family. The kids got along. They were each other's best friends. I was her best friend. Actually, she used to come to me more than she would go to her dad, just because I was a girl,
Right.
And then whenever it started getting worse, and what is really sad, you brought it up about, kids start to see it, whenever she was younger, she wasn't as easily manipulated, but until like she got older and stuff, and it was weird because like she would never, whenever we would kind of like somewhat talk to her about it, which was a really difficult subject to talk about, my kids were brought into it. It actually, before it was Justin, it was my, at the time, 6-year-old son that all these sick, false allegations were about. And I think what she tried to do there was the narrative of, oh, I have a son in my home that is doing all these things to her daughter. And that's what she tried to feed off of until one day she changed it around like, oh, now it's the dad. But even trying to sit down and talk to your kids about it, and just, I remember, I don't know how many times seeing that deer in a headlight look on her face, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so we would just stop the conversation, like, it's not her, she has no idea what we're talking about. There were times where she'd come home and she'd come to our house and be like, you need to pay my mom child support so she can take me to Chuck E. Cheese. And we would just like stand there and be like, first of all, this is not a conversation that, your mom shouldn't be talking to you about this adult stuff. Like, let's talk about something else. And it would hurt us. I mean, I don't even know how many times, like, I would lay in bed and cry because it was just like, I want this girl to feel safe and loved in my own home. And she is. I mean, this little girl she had no problem saying, if she got a boo-boo, she would say, hey, I'm hurt or whatever. She was always very open with us. But then outside of that, it was like all these random allegations and stuff. And it's like, I feel like if something was going on, she had no problem speaking up about it. But because she loves her mom, and she loves her dad, and the mom is who she's with most of the time, she wants to please her mom. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really sad and scary in these situations, is a lot of the times, like, these kids, like, they have this trauma bond, like,
right.
I remember one day she was like, I'm scared that you're going to take me away from my mom. And it's like, no, we're not trying to take you away from your mom. We just want to spend some time with you. Like, don't you want to spend some time with us? And she's like, yes, but I want to make sure I go back to my mom. And like, yeah, you'll go back to your mom. So yeah, it was hard. It was very hard.
Do you think that came from the kid's mind, or was it put there?
It was put there. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, never. In my case, there's nothing anybody can say that will change my mind on how our story went.
Maria, and what's so sad about this is, since Justin was killed at this custody exchange, has the narrative changed any, or did the media just put fuel on the fire?
No, the media hasn't changed. There were a couple articles whenever. So when I was new to TikTok, I had TikTok for the longest time, but I never posted on anything. And honestly, whenever I did start posting, it was more in dedication to Justin. And that's when people started asking questions, like, what happened? And so the first article that came out was what the guy who killed him said. And so everybody ran off of that. And I remember I wasn't even able to properly mourn him, because I just felt like I was, instead of people letting me properly grieve, they were all in my business about, oh, what actually went on, what happened. And I felt as like my mama bear mode, like, who loved this man and who knew what we actually went through, what he actually went through just to see his kid. I felt like it was now my time to speak up on his behalf. And so I remember something had went viral and everything, and then people were making articles questioning what actually did happen. But other than that, it kind of died. And the only time anything is brought up is, if I speak up on it.
Absolutely. So, Kira, a lot of times it's the parents that get brought into focus, rightfully so. But everybody's got different dynamics. Was there a whole other side of the family that's getting alienated in the process as your husband's going through this?
Yes, his entire family. Honestly, I've also heard recently that she is also doing the same thing to the man she's with now. She's doing it to his family too. It feels like everybody is having an issue with this woman. My husband's family has not even seen the children. He has 3 other children with somebody else who's moved to a different state. And they're not allowed to see us at all. But the child that lives here in town, they don't ever get to see her. She told me the other day, I'm on Messenger Kids and I try to message my Mimi, blah, blah, blah. And then mommy blocked her. It's just like, she doesn't even get to speak to his side of the family, or to him, unless she is here with us physically.
Absolutely. Let me ask you 2 ladies a question. I'll start with you, Kira. What would you say to another stepmom that is just about to get married and to get into a situation like this? If hindsight's 2020 and you could have went back and said, I need to prepare you for what's about to happen, what would that be?
Somebody literally just messaged me this yesterday and I did respond. It was pretty lengthy, but if I could give you any advice as a new stepmom, disengage as much as you can. There is something called the Nacho method, which I do go by as much as I can. Disengage from everything you can. Let dad handle it for the most part. Sure, have a bond with the child, but try not to reach out to the mother of the child unless she reaches out to you first. In my case, I introduced myself first to my child's stepmother. But I remember when I first started, I took it upon myself to be like, hey, I'm Kira. I'm now dating Kyle. Do not message me again. You are not the parent. I will speak directly to Kyle. So as a new stepmom, try not to engage with that person unless she comes to you first. Try not to argue or to stalk their socials. Don't put all that in your mind. It's going to stress you out before y'all even get going. Okay, just don't do it to yourself, because I did it to myself and it messed me up just a little bit. So now I do my best not to do that. I'm here for the child. When she is here, it is great. When she is not here, I try not to engage with all of that.
So you tried to communicate and it didn't go so well.
No, it did not. I got the nastiest reply and I'm just like, okay, I'm not doing this again. I try to be nice. So now I'm going to set some boundaries. And if I have to be not so nice, that's what's going to happen. So I will not be communicating with that woman again. I will let my husband handle that.
Well, I mean, you probably have a newfound respect for your husband when he tries, because he knows what he's stepping into as well.
Yes. I feel bad for him, but he's got to do what he's got to do. And I feel bad that he's got to deal with it every other weekend. I really do, because it's every other weekend.
Oh, I get it. Maria, what would you have said to Maria if you knew then what you knew now?
Well, hang in there is what I would tell myself. I would tell other moms, but pretty much what Kira said. I do believe whenever you are getting involved with somebody who does have kids, and that is somebody you think the rest of your life with, be there as their support system. Be there on the side. Hold their hand. Do let the father engage as much as possible, because that is his child. The communication is a lot easier when it's just the dad and the mom, and none of the other voices around. It already is going to be confusing enough, especially if you have like such a very high conflict parenting that you're trying to go through. So just let him do the talk. Let him be, and just be there on the side for him, and be strong for him, and just show the kids in your own household the love that you guys have, and they'll feed off of that. They'll see that.
I love that.
Yeah, well, of course, it being dad talk, we got a lot of dads in here right now, but I tell you, our audience is half women, so they're in there and they're hearing this as well. So I want to go back and I want to do the other thing. Kira, if you could have told your husband ways he could have supported you, knowing what he did, what would you do? What would you tell a man that's got a stepmom or somebody that's in there right now to understand the battle that she's fighting, being there for you?
Honestly, a lot of when I first started, he told me that this would cease. He told me this would not last forever. Little did he know, it's still there and it has not gone away. It's probably gotten worse. there were times when I was like, hey, I need you to defend me. She is talking bad on my name. She's making me out to be some bad person. At the beginning, he didn't do that. He does that now. He lets it be known, hey, that is my wife. You're not going to disrespect her that way. She doesn't have anything to do with this. This is between you and I. She does not like that. So men, defend your wife, okay? Don't let that other woman get into her head and ruin this for you guys. Here, take that. That's the first thing. Sorry, I've got my kiddo over here.
No, go ahead.
Whipped
You're
cream
fine.
all over his hands. But like she said, just make sure that y'all's love in the home is real and it's there. That way, when there's all this chaos going on around you, it's not going to matter so much in y'all's household.
How about you, Maria?
Well,
You might be talking to your future husband right now, by the way, so I'm just going to put that out there.
I do remember when I first got with him, I already had known of his ex. We actually had a mutual friend that I had a friend that she was friends with. So we already like knew of each other. And I had already heard some stories about how it was, but as a mom, and I was like, going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay, well, she's a mom. She's a single mom. She's struggling, she still has feelings for you. I get it. Like she's just hurting. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Like she's crazy. Well, and that's a lot of things that a lot of moms do go through. Do say, us the women are crazy, and we are
You women are what?
crazy.
I didn't say that.
but
we men can be too sometimes.
Yes. So I remember him saying that, and just like Kira, I reached out. I remember the first time I had heard her going around, bashing my name and stuff. I thought, okay, well, maybe if I reach out to her and send her this message, like, hey, I know you know who I am. If there's anything specific that I think I started the conversation off with like a school lunch, like, hey, would you prefer that she have a school lunch or a home lunch? What is something that she likes? Does she have an allergy? If you have an issue, just let me know. If you can't get a hold of him, I'm here to help. Nothing. And
Yeah, they
then
don't
nothing. I didn't get a go to hell text. I got nothing. But she would continue to bash and bash and bash. And I mean, she went as far as posting a lot about my family on social media, and I would get, I'd get the screenshots. And I remember, before it got really bad, Justin was not that confrontational person. I was like, right. I was one that would get upset about it because, these aren't true. Like this is defamation. Like, no, you can't say this stuff. And he'd be like, okay, well, we know, honey, we know that this isn't true. Who cares what other people think? And then it got so bad that it was just like, okay, people are starting to believe it. People were starting to get looks, and then it started. That's when it was like, okay, well, we're just going to start documenting. Like we would start filming exchanges. We'd start, saving text messages. It got even to that point where he was like, no more texting or no more phone calls, all through text. Mm-hmm. Because there'd be so many times that she would be like, oh yeah, you can pick our child up at a certain time. And then it'd be that time and be like, no, what it says in our custody thing. It's like, okay, well, you said that, we could have her. And she's like, no, I didn't. And it was like, what? Like she changed it all up real quick. So it's, it was something I already knew from the get-go that it was going to be a rocky road. And I'm not gonna lie, there was multiple times along the way that I wanted to throw in the towel. And mm-hmm. even to this day, I feel I have those guilty feelings that, what would my life be if I did, but I'm glad that I stuck it out with him till the very end. And I'm glad that I did, because I know the truth and I can still be his voice for him.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you, and I'm pretty sure, obviously, Kira, you've already talked about it a little bit, but did the ex use the kids to come between you and your husband? Did they use them to try to break you up? because they didn't want you being together. Did you see any of that?
I did, with his older children that I haven't really talked about much on here. He has 3 older children. They're 17, 18, that don't live, they live in a different state. I've met them only a couple of times because the mom does not want them around me. But yes, there were times when they were here for the holidays where she would want them to FaceTime and, you know, search around my house and just be very ugly to me. They would not call me by my name. They would just refer to me as hey, or, you know, they wouldn't even use my name. They're not allowed to speak about me over there. So I do feel like that did cause some conflict while they were here, because they were disrespecting me because their mom wanted them to. As far as the other child, like I said, I've been in her life since she was 4. She doesn't disrespect me in that way. And she really does love being over here with me and her dad. So there's never really been that kind of issue with her.
Do you think there was just some like tension because them two had split and they were playing loyalty conflict with mom? Whereas it seems like the younger kids, they seem to get over a little bit because they didn't see a lot of the dynamics that was going on. But those older kids are a little bit easier to get into.
Right. Yes. And I feel like they're good kids. I feel like they just want to please mom. They don't want to upset mom. They're with mom 99% of the time. So they want to make mom happy. So when they are here, which is not very often, that's what they try to do. If mom says do this, they're going to do it. It's in our house, you know. Their mom will make the rules for them in our household, and they will go by that.
How about you, Maria?
He only had one child, and I met her when she was 3 years old. So I never had the issue of she was still very young when everything was going down. So whenever she was with us, we actually had a very great relationship. I was literally her best friend at the house. I mean, she always felt very comfortable coming to me. We do girly things. I'd let her play with my hair, do my makeup. We'd go on ice cream dates. We never had a strained relationship inside our home. Now, between her and her dad, Justin, I think one of the main things, besides all the other things that were going on, that we had to remind her whenever she would come over was like she would call him Justin. And one of the things he used to tell us was, at my house, I have to refer to you as Justin. And he's like, okay, well, here, refer to me as Dad. And on multiple occasions, you know, she'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot Daddy, you know, and it was just sad because that's something that that's just something that we know that in our other household, she's just drilled to say, you know, because that's what she was with her mom most of the time. So we know that that was a common thing that that she was doing. Other than that, you know, we had a really great relationship, and I miss it.
I got you. Mr. Mike Whitney wanted to know, he said, did either of you ever deal with divorce, conflict, or alienation with your own parents when you were children?
Yes, I definitely did.
Yeah.
My mom moved us to Colorado, I remember, and she didn't tell my dad that we had left or that we had moved or where we were. And honestly, it had more to do with my stepdad at the time that didn't like my dad just because he was the dad. So yeah, it does happen both ways. And so as a kid, that happened to me a lot. My dad showed up and he found us, and he let me know that dad was going to do whatever it took to make sure he saw his kids. And so seeing my dad do that, I'm always telling my husband, if my dad can do that, you can do that, and you better do it, because I don't have my dad anymore. So you show your kids now while you were here that you will do everything it takes.
Seeing your husband go through this, did you have like a newfound respect for your dad and the issues that he went through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When my dad was here, I talked to him a lot about this, and he would always give Kyle advice about, hey, this is what you should do, because my dad knew a lot of it. And it didn't just happen one time. It was multiple times that this had happened as a child. So.
And it seemed like, yeah, there was definitely some distance and stuff in there, but I saw a little of emotion when you started mentioning your father. Sounds like he had a good man that loved you. What were some of the things that your dad taught you?
Being a stepmom, he supported me like 100%. He knows I'm a good mom. He knows I would never act like that. And me and my mom are super close, but my dad did talk to me about the things that, you know, she did do, as far as alienating us away from my dad. And he would just tell me, you know, don't be like that. You can do better. And you show that little girl that you love her. And regardless of how her mother is acting, you're not going to be that person. Give her something to look up to and give her an inspiration. And that's what I have been doing. And I'm going to stand by that.
Yeah. How about you, Maria?
No, I grew up with my parents. They were very old school Christian.
Mine too.
So this experience has been a first for even my own family to go through, because they've never experienced what I've gone through.
How did they handle this? And you said you had an intact family. Them seeing these challenges that you're going through with Justin, were they supportive with you being with Justin, or was it one of those things that was hard for them to understand?
They knew him. They loved him as a person, but because of all the high conflict issues that we were going through, I do remember my mom being like, Maria, like, this is messy, you know, like, this isn't, do you really want to marry into this? You know, like, this is a lot. And I remember I used to get in the defense, like, yes, mom, like, I know the truth. And I know she knew the truth because she knows me as a person as well. She knows that I would never allow my kids to be put in harm's way, or this little girl that's about to be my stepdaughter. So they knew who we were. They knew and believed, like, stood by us. But there were times beforehand that it was just like, this is a lot. This is a lot.
Yeah. Mr. Dwayne Ward said, what advice would you have for other ladies out there? I mean, y'all take a lot of fire for your position. What would you say to other ladies in this?
Honestly, you can't just have that mindset. And I see it a lot in the comments on my TikTok. I'll never date a man with children because of issues like this. But that's honestly not fair to these dads who are out there looking for love just because it didn't work out with the baby mom, or however you want to put it. They deserve to be loved too. And just because they have children doesn't mean they don't get that chance. So don't have that mindset, ladies, to not want to date men with children, because honestly, that's not fair to those children or that man. It can be great. You might have the struggles, but honestly, I wouldn't change it. I love him and I love his children. And I definitely would not change it. So if you see a man and he's got children, go for it. You might like it.
There you go. What about you, Maria?
Yeah, like I said earlier, like, especially in my situation, it is hard, and, you know, going through all that, it really messes with you mentally, and in your heart. And I know that it's not fair to men out there who have children, because I am a mom that has children as well. But there are amazing fathers out there that have children that go through this or don't go through this, that you never know. Like, and maybe you being with that person could make a really amazing power couple. So just because, you know, these are things that other dads and other stepmoms go through doesn't mean that it always is like that. I mean, us speaking on that, maybe we broke through to some women out there that are doing this to their exes, and maybe they're like, oh, okay, maybe I need to change how I am. And hopefully that is, I mean, especially us as women, you know, not only are we standing up for fathers, but we are trying to speak up for other women and trying to get their mindset changed on this matter, because that's where it starts. You know, like, these guys are having these issues because of these women who aren't wanting to get along, and who aren't wanting to co-parent, and who just want the upper hand in everything. Like, you know, you guys are the issues, and we need you guys to change, because it can result in something bad, and it messes with your children. You know, you don't do that, but I mean, Kira, you know, I'm sure there was times growing up you may not have seen it now, but now that you're older, you probably, you know, like, oh, I remember that. You know, my father going through that. Like, they may be young, they're going to catch on later on.
They're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. They absolutely will, because I remember all of it. And honestly, while we're talking about this, I want to give a giant shout out to my child's stepmother and the father of my children, because they are doing so awesome. And I believe that she really thought that I was going to be some bitter baby mama that caused them issues, and we get along so well, and I love her so much, and she does what she can for my daughter. Um, and we just get along so well, and I wish it for everybody. I really do. I know it doesn't always work out that way, but if you're willing to give it a chance, go for it.
The crazy thing is we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. Now, I've got the counter to what you was just talking about, Kira. There is this movement that's been around for a while called MGTOW, men going their own way. They believe that not to get in a relationship, don't get with a single mom, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Oh.
And unfortunately, when we're talking about this type of stuff, this is the reason why that is getting so big. Because unfortunately, there's so many of them out there that do this. There really is. And these guys don't believe in the nuclear family. They don't. Well, they want to be. They want to be in that family. They want that life. But they said with the way that feminism in society is right now, we're not going to do it. And, you know, it's so sad because I believe in that traditional intact family, that nuclear family. But knowing the challenges that these guys go through, let me ask you a question. Is there anything your husband could have done different, Kira, inside of the family courts? And if he did, do you think they would have listened to anything that he had to say?
Honestly, I don't think that he could have done anything differently, because I still think they would have sided with the mother regardless. He could show up with receipts and binders and evidence, and they did not even look at it. Okay, like I honestly don't think that it would have changed in any manner. I feel like they still would have sided with mom, and I feel like Texas is a mother state, regardless of what anyone tells me. That's what I personally believe. Even as I was growing up, it's always been a mother state. My dad always said that it's a mother state. They're gonna side with mom no matter what. They don't listen to dads, and it sucks.
Yeah, we got the here you go. Paul, YouTube, he said, I'm going to turn into a monk and head to the mountains. Why did these guys have been so scarred? They're just like, I'm not doing it anymore. And I was one of those guys. I wanted that relationship. And that's why I rushed into another one. And I ended up getting into a same thing because I wanted that family. And and that happens to a lot of these guys. They're not just one-time divorcees. They end up getting in several of relationships because they don't heal before they get back into it. And what they had before is still familiar, right? I tell these guys, take your time, heal. And if it happens and you meet the right person, then it happens. Look, there is these two ladies on the screen right here. They are out there, but you're going to have to do a little bit of searching, guys. Don't just think you're going to find something on Tinder and say, I'm going to make it what I want. That's not how this goes, you know, and you got to make yourself also the example of what you want. But I want to take that back to you, Maria. About these guys, do you think that there's anything that Justin could have done different in the system, and would they have listened to him?
No. Justin did everything that he could have the right way. I mean, he did everything that he could have. Followed the book. I mean, he was following the court-ordered parenting plan already. And no matter how many times she would go against it, and he'd have to spend thousands of dollars just to go to court, just to say, look, I'm innocent, I didn't do this, and then we'd get her back. I mean, but he still, in a way, was losing. Like, he'd miss out on a weekend because she would keep him for a weekend, and then we'd have to go to court just to get her back. But he never got the makeup time. He never got makeup time. I mean, he didn't get his money back on the lawyer fees that he got. I mean, and he would comply with everything. You know, if DFS wanted to come into the home, he'd be like, here, come into the home. Here's my phone. Here's my camera system. You know, it didn't matter what he did. They didn't take us seriously. And now that, you know, like, I'm speaking up about it, you know, now they're sweating. They're like, oh, now we need you to be quiet because you have all this evidence that you guys tried and you were doing this and we didn't take you seriously, you know. But, you know, when a woman goes into court crying, you know, they have sympathy for her.
They do.
A dad, but it doesn't matter. This dad's over here crying, who spent endless nights not able to sleep because he couldn't see his kid. You know, that didn't matter. You know, especially being a woman on the opposite end, it really even taught me lessons as a mom too. Like, it really opened up my eyes to a lot of things that were going on, that were, you know, dads just have a very unfair advantage.
Well, there goes the next question. How do you think now versus what did you think coming into this? I'm sure you got a completely different perspective on the issues these guys are going through than you did when you first got with them.
Yes, I absolutely do. It's helped me personally as a mom not do these things to the father of my children. I see so many dads going through this, and it angers me. Like it really gets under my skin because it's just not fair. And now I'm personally having to see my husband go through it. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody.
Shout out to your husband. I definitely want to get him on here. That's we'll make it happen, and we'll take care of him. Ladies, really quick, we've been going for about an hour. I know we got moms on the screen, and you guys got stuff to do, so I don't want to be too demanding. I appreciate you so much for being here, and I could go on forever. We're gonna have to have you back because we need voices like yours speaking up for this movement. We just do. It helps fight back at the narrative. But if you could say anything to the family courts about what this system is putting these dads through, these dads that you've seen, they're good dads. They love their kids. Do they make mistakes? Yeah, we all do. Are they perfect? No, they're not. But they love their kids. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Any good, fit, willing, and able father should not even have to step foot inside of the courtroom in the first place. That's his kid. That should be a right, not a fight. We have duped this society into thinking that the more dad loves their kid, the more he'll pay. That was money that he had to take care of those kids. He shouldn't have to go in there and prove that. That was his kids. Does she? She's got rights automatically. Why doesn't a dad? Isn't that what's called equality? We are so far from equality. And I'm so sorry, Kier. Texas is horrible. Texas, dude. Oh my God. I can't stand it, but I've been up there in Missouri too, Maria. It's crazy. But if you could say anything to these family courts about what this system is doing for fathers, what would it be? I'm going to start with you, Kira, and then you can take it, Maria.
Do better. You're failing these fathers. Fathers are losing their lives over this. If I could tell you what I would want you to do, 50-50. Give the mom and dad equal rights to this child, because you're right. The moms automatically get the rights, and what for? There are good dads out there, and they treat them like it's a privilege to see your child when it's a right. You should be able to have just as much rights as mom. So I don't understand it. Maybe it'll change one day, but as of right now, I don't see that happening. So do better.
Absolutely. And we need you. Like, if they go in front of the legislation there in Texas, you'd be a strong voice. But unfortunately, there is a family law foundation there that gives tons of money. And I'll give you guys a little secret. A lot of your legislators are attorneys. So it's like going to the abuser and saying, hey, we're being abused. Stop the abuse. They can't go to them. And that's what a lot of these people are doing. And it's just so sickening. Exactly. Maria, what would you say to the system about what it's doing to fathers and how they can change?
I think Kira took the words right out of my mouth. Do better. We need change. We need some sort of change. You guys need to wake up there or in there, wherever you guys are at. I don't know about 50-50, especially if you have a very narcissistic, parent, especially like a mom who's causing conflict all the time and stuff. Like, 50-50 only works if you've got two parents willing to come together to make it work. If moms can go to court and, they do all this stuff and they get rewarded 60-40, that's still not fair. Like that, you have a good father who's only getting the time to spend time with their kid, and you have a mother that is still willing to put this father through hell no matter what the cost. Like, do better, do better at, like, even investigating, like, as many times as we've been to court, it should have been a wake-up call for y'all that there's something going on. As many times DFS was our house, DFS shouldn't have been at our house that many times, and you still allow this child to go back to the person that was making these false allegations. You guys should have stopped. You should have been like, okay, we need to take a stop. We need to stop right here. And instead of just showing up at our house all the time, maybe you should have looked into this home, the one that was making all these false allegations all the time. And at some point, this is harassment. And even they even said that to us multiple times. This is There's this hotline number you can call if you feel like, you feel like you're getting treated unfairly or whatever. And it didn't matter though. It didn't matter. What is the point of having all this if you guys aren't going to actually do something about it? And it takes you guys actually listening and paying attention when something bad and tragic happens. Then in our case, that's what happened. And now it's like, oh shit.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. I agree with everything you just said. And a lot of people would get upset about that. Like, oh, you don't believe in 50-50. In a case where you can do 50-50, yes. And it keeps the fight out of it. A lot of times the family courts, how many times have you heard your ex's, your guy's ex pay compliment to them inside of the family court? Probably not. Because that's not what they're there to do. They're there to increase that conflict. And unfortunately, if that person's got like a little bit of time with that child, all they've got to do is plant a seed, and they're going to use that. There is going to be times where people are going to have full custody, guys, because they cannot communicate with this person. This has been proven. You got one side that can, but when you got one side that can't, and you're telling this dad that he's got to go and communicate with that. If he could communicate with that in the first place, he wouldn't have needed the family courts, and he might not have got a divorce. Exactly. There is no communicating with that. And some of these guys just have to disengage, but then they get called the deadbeat. And that's what just sucks so bad. I mean, thank you so much for pushing back at this narrative. Let me ask you, all right, I said something about the family courts. I got a couple more questions for you before I get you out of here. Kira, if you could say anything to the moms out there that are using this system or doing the things that the moms we talked about on this show are doing, what would it be?
Honestly, if this dad is financially taking care of the child and he's making an effort to be there for that child, I would put your personal issues aside and let him be the father that he deserves to be. That child is going to grow up and they're going to resent you for it. I promise you, they are going to look back and think, oh, my mom was the problem. My dad wanted to see me. So put your pride aside and let that dad be a father. I mean, I know you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. How about you, Maria?
I would tell him, stop it. Shame on you for doing that. You have a voice to make change in other things in this world. There are so many things right now that we're going through that are way worse than you trying to keep your child away from your child's father. And like Kira said, like, karma will come back on you. If it's not now, it'll be in the future. And maybe that karma is your child is going to resent you when they get older, and I hold on to that, that belief and hope that Justin's little girl is going to grow up and remember that. Right now we may be the bad guys in the story because that's what she's being drilled. But I know that the time that she had with us, she had nothing but good and happy memories. That are going to be stuck in her brain. And when she gets older, I believe she's going to be as smart as her dad was, and she's going to figure out the truth for herself. And she's going to do her own investigating. And if that's the outcome, if that's your judgment, if that's your punishment, is your child is going to resent you, you did it to yourself.
Yep.
All right, I got one last question and we're going to end there. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this show. Please like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to support our show, Cash App, Venmo, Patreon, Dad Talk Today, no spaces. There's memberships and super chats over on YouTube, the same on Facebook. And would you give these ladies a round of applause and tell them how much you appreciate what they did down there in the comments? And you ladies are free to take this podcast, chop it up, put it on TikTok, whatever you want to do. All we're worried about is getting that awareness out there. So make sure to go follow that Texas girl. Maria, what is your TikTok handle?
I believe it's Maria M. It's 09/22 2021. It was the day that Justin died.
And I just want to say thank you. Don't ever let any of them get in your head. TikTok is a different platform. You got the short videos. So you definitely got some creative ways of getting the message out there. And I went through it and saw what you ladies was doing. And I was like, dang, they think that we're hard. But when the women speak out against these issues, guys, get in there and support it. I want to repost some of this stuff myself. Great stuff. But on the way out, let me ask you to give a little encouragement to the guys out there, the ones that we're fighting for that are going through this. What is some encouragement you can leave them with today to stay on in this fight? Even for future relationships. A lot of these guys say, I'm never doing it again. I'm never doing it again. But it sounds like there's some of these ladies out there that would protect them. Hell, after everything you've been through, you said, I wouldn't have done it any different. I would have stayed there. Speak a little encouragement to my guys on the way out, if you don't mind.
Yeah, never give up. I mean, like, I think it's very attractive when a guy steps up to the plate and tries to be a good father. Like, that's very attractive to me. You know, no matter what he's going through, you know, he's the love that you have for your kids and the fact that you keep going, it speaks volume. It speaks volumes to other dads. It speaks volumes to your children. It speaks volumes to other women out there, especially women like me. And we see you and we hear you, and just keep going.
Throw that over to you, Kira.
Yeah. Dads, keep fighting for your kids. Let your kids know that you love them. And just don't let the negative really get to you. I know there are times that you want to give up, but during those times you really just can't. Keep focus on your children. And really my advice is just don't give up. The kids are going to see that.
Absolutely. If you ladies would stick around for just a second, I want to talk to you right before we get off of here. Guys, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/Dad Talk Today, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.